what makes the world's most dangerous destinations so irresistible? There are still places on Earth where simply getting there is a challenge in itself. From a narrow rock ledge suspended hundreds of meters above the ground, to stairways bolted onto near-vertical cliffs, or raging rapids powerful enough to throw an entire raft off course. You would think the danger would keep people away. Yet it is exactly that danger that has turned these places into dream destinations for countless adventurers. But the real question is, would you have the courage to go there alone? A narrow rock ledge juts straight out from a mountainside. Nearly 700 meters below lies a sheer drop. There are no guardrails between you and the open void. That breathtaking view has made this one of Norway's most spectacular but also most dangerous destinations. This is Trolltunga. The rock formation was created after the last ice age, when massive glaciers carved away the mountainside and left the deep valley below. Today, the landscape remains almost untouched. Reaching the ledge requires completing a round-trip hike of about 27 kilometers across steep mountain terrain. Every day, long lines of visitors wait for their chance to step onto the rock. Some sit at the very edge, with their legs dangling over the cliff. Others pose on the narrow outcrop to capture one of the world's most iconic travel photos. Those few minutes on the edge have turned Trolltunga into a challenge that countless people dream of completing. But not everyone has the courage to take that final step. Stone steps are carved directly into a near-vertical cliff. One after another, they lead you away from the valley floor and steadily higher along the mountainside. This rugged terrain once made Jianmen Pass one of the most difficult natural gateways in China. For centuries, it controlled the route connecting Sichuan with northern China. Higher up, the stairway comes to an end. In its place is the bird path, a narrow trail carved into the face of the cliff. Some sections are barely wide enough for a single person to pass. One glance over the edge reveals the forest far below. At the most exposed points, you have to grip the safety chains, press yourself against the rock, and move forward one careful step at a time. Groups can only pass through these sections, one person after another. At the end of the climb, Jianmen Pass comes into view between the mountains. The gateway still stands on the site of the ancient pass, marking the point where the historic route through the Jianmen Mountains once emerged. A massive sinkhole nearly 512 meters deep lies hidden beneath the rainforest in Mexico. Its opening measures only about 49 to 62 meters across, but below the surface, it widens into a gigantic underground chamber. Cave of Swallows is home to thousands of swifts and green parakeets. Every morning they spiral upward from the depths of the cave before spreading out across the forest to feed. There is no trail leading to the bottom. The only way down is to rappel along the nearly vertical rock walls. Descending and climbing back out usually takes several hours, even for experienced adventurers. The cave's incredible depth has also made it one of the world's most famous base jumping sites. Some jumpers leap directly into the void before deploying their parachutes at the right altitude. Every activity here requires specialized equipment and experienced support teams. That is exactly what makes Cave of Swallows one of the most demanding natural sinkholes on Earth for explorers. Just a few steps from the edge, the water plunges about 108 meters into the gorge below. Right at the brink of the falls sits a natural rock pool. Devil's Pool is located on the Zambian side of Victoria Falls, beside Livingston Island. Visitors can swim, relax in the water, and lie against the rock ledge while looking straight down into the canyon. The current still pushes your body toward the edge, but a submerged rock lip stops the flow just before the water spills over the falls. There are no guardrails, no artificial barriers. The only protection is a natural rock formation shaped by the river over thousands of years. From inside the pool, the water seems to merge directly with the open void ahead. Mist rises from the gorge, while the roar of the waterfall overwhelms almost every other sound. During the high water season, Victoria Falls can send more than 500 million liters of water over the edge every minute. Devil's Pool appears only when the river drops low enough, revealing an infinity pool created entirely by nature. A wall of water stretches across almost the entire width of the river, racing straight ahead. White foam rolls along the crest, while the massive body of water behind it continues surging upstream. This phenomenon occurs on the Qiantang River in China, home to the world's largest tidal bore. As the tide from the East China Sea rushes into the river's funnel-shaped estuary, it is compressed into a powerful wave. Under the right conditions, the bore can reach about 9 meters in height and travel upstream for dozens of kilometers. Thousands of spectators gather along both riverbanks to witness its arrival. Viewing areas are protected by safety barriers because the incoming wave can be extremely dangerous. As the bore reaches the shore, the water level can rise within seconds, spilling over the embankments and sending huge bursts of spray high into the air. Once the tide retreats, vast mudflats are exposed. Local residents quickly head out to catch fish, crabs, and shellfish. But that opportunity lasts only a short time before the river transforms once again. You almost have to look straight up to see the path ahead. Stone steps are carved directly into a basalt cliff, climbing at an angle of nearly 80 degrees. Harihar Fort in Maharashtra, India, is reached by about 117 steps cut into the mountainside. Each step is relatively narrow, with handholds carved into the rock on both sides. When people are climbing in opposite directions, one side often has to stop and wait for the other to pass. During the monsoon season, water flows continuously over the stone. The steps become much more slippery, making every move far more challenging. Wild monkeys are also common along the route and on the surrounding rock ledges. Visitors are advised not to carry food in their hands or approach the animals too closely. At the summit, the remains of the fort's walls and rock-cut water cisterns can still be seen. This near-vertical terrain helped make Harihar Fort one of the most difficult mountain fortresses to reach for centuries. Molten lava is constantly moving inside the volcanic crater. Thin black crusts crack apart and close again, revealing the glowing red lava beneath. Erta Ale rises from Ethiopia's Danakil Desert, one of the hottest and harshest places on Earth. Daytime temperatures often climb above 40 degrees Celsius. For that reason, many expeditions begin only after sunset. The final approach crosses fields of solidified lava. The ground is covered with jagged basalt and deep cracks left behind by repeated eruptions. Hot gases and volcanic steam continue to escape from beneath the surface. Erta Ale is one of the very few volcanoes in the world that has maintained a long-lived lava lake. Around the crater, there are almost no protective barriers. Just a few steps can bring you to the edge of the molten lava below. Hidden deep in Chilean Patagonia, the Futaleufú River has become one of the world's most famous destinations for expert whitewater paddlers. Several sections are rated Class 5 rapids, a level suitable only for highly experienced rafters and kayakers. The river is fed by meltwater from the Andes, keeping the water icy cold throughout the year. As it squeezes through narrow rock channels, the current constantly changes direction, creating powerful standing waves, swirling eddies, and one rapid after another. Each time a raft crashes through a major wave, a wall of white water surges over the bow and drenches everyone on board. In some sections, expert kayakers even choose to launch themselves over waterfalls before plunging into the turbulent whitewater below. The Futaleufú is far from major medical facilities and rescue services. For that reason, expeditions are almost always conducted in groups, with professional guides, safety rafts, and carefully planned emergency procedures. A giant thermometer standing about 12 meters tall rises in the middle of the visitor area. It was built to showcase the legendary heat of the Flaming Mountains in China's Xinjiang region. During extreme summer conditions, ground surface temperatures here have been recorded at about 83.3 degrees Celsius, the highest ever measured in China. Under the intense sun, the sand and rocks absorb enormous amounts of heat. Visitors often try burying eggs in the sand or placing them on the scorching rocks to experience just how hot the ground can become. The red sandstone mountains stretch for more than 100 kilometers, making the entire landscape look as though it is on fire. At the foot of the mountains, short camel rides are a popular activity for visitors exploring the scenic area. The region is also well known for hiking. However, there is almost no shade along the trails. Summer air temperatures frequently exceed 40 degrees Celsius, making long walks a serious risk for dehydration and heat exhaustion. The trail ahead grows narrower with every step. Near the end, it becomes little more than a thin ridgeline, with sheer drops on both sides. This is Angel's Landing in Zion National Park, United States. The most challenging section is only about 800 meters long. In some places, the trail is less than 1 meter wide. Hikers rely on metal chains that have been permanently anchored into the rock since 1930, using them for balance while crossing the steepest and narrowest sections. People climbing in opposite directions often have to stop and wait because there is not enough room to pass at the same time. One misplaced step or a moment of lost concentration can leave you facing cliffs hundreds of meters high. Today, anyone wishing to continue beyond Scout Lookout to Angel's Landing must first obtain a permit. The National Park Service also advises against attempting the hike when the rock is wet, icy, or the weather begins to deteriorate. A silver metal shelter protrudes from a mountainside surrounded by rock and ice. There is no road to reach it, no cable car either. Bivacco Gervasutti sits at an elevation of about 2,835 meters in Italy's Mont Blanc Massif. Reaching the hut requires crossing the Freiboods Glacier before continuing over rocky terrain and snowfields. Depending on the conditions, climbers may also need crampons and trekking poles to stay stable. Just below the cabin is the final climb across a steep rock face. Fixed safety cables are installed to help climbers reach the rocky platform outside the entrance. The shelter can accommodate only up to 12 people. Arriving late during bad weather may leave climbers with no choice but to turn back. Right outside the door, the mountainside drops steeply toward the glacier far below. Every step around the cabin demands extreme caution. Because access from the ground is so difficult, helicopters are often the fastest option whenever a rescue is needed. Brilliant blue and deep black cover the walls of the entire ice cave. The blue comes from densely compressed glacier ice. The black streaks are layers of volcanic ash from eruptions of Katla, trapped inside the glacier for years. Katla Ice Cave lies within the Kötlujökull Glacier in southern Iceland. Melting ice, changing temperatures, and the constant movement of the glacier continuously reshape the cave. Some passages exist for only a single season, before disappearing as the ice cracks and shifts. In certain sections, visitors must cross simple, temporary wooden planks. Beneath them are deep crevasses and fast-flowing meltwater. The danger is even greater because geothermal heat from the Katla volcano below can weaken the ice and trigger sudden collapses. Exploring Katla safely requires specialized equipment and the guidance of experienced professionals who understand the constantly changing glacier. Every few minutes, another explosion erupts from the crater. Glowing red volcanic bombs and clouds of ash are blasted into the air before falling back around the rim. Mount Yasur on the island of Tanna, Vanuatu, has remained active almost continuously for around 800 years. After a short hike across ash-covered slopes, visitors can stand remarkably close to the edge of the crater. The crater itself is about 400 meters wide. There are few, if any, protective barriers along the rim, and the viewing distance is adjusted each day according to the volcano's level of activity. Each eruption launches more than rocks and ash. The shock waves from the explosions can be felt at the viewing area, while the ground often trembles beneath your feet. Mount Yasur is continuously monitored by Vanuatu's geological authorities. If the alert level rises or volcanic activity becomes more intense, the entire area is immediately closed to protect visitors. At an elevation of 4,554 meters, even breathing becomes a challenge. Capanna Margherita holds the record as the highest building in Europe, standing on Punta Nifeti in the harsh, ice-covered environment of the Alps. Part of the structure extends directly over a steep rock face, making the entire building appear to hang between the cliffs and the clouds. Reaching the hut requires crossing vast glaciers and navigating snow-covered crevasses. As the altitude increases, oxygen levels continue to drop. Many climbers begin to experience headaches, fatigue, or symptoms of altitude sickness. Most food, fuel, and supplies are delivered by helicopter. The exterior is protected by a metal shell that withstands the extreme weather while also functioning as a Faraday cage, helping reduce the risk of lightning strikes. Capanna Margherita is more than just a mountain refuge. It also serves as a high-altitude research station, where scientists study how the human body responds to living and working in an oxygen-poor environment high in the Alps. A towering granite peak rises almost vertically into the sky. Only a single path carved into the mountainside leads to the summit. Once you begin the climb to Heavenly Capital Peak in Huangshan, there is almost no alternative route. The trail includes more than 1,500 stone steps. Along the way, nearly 200 stone railings and about 600 meters of iron chains help hikers navigate the steep terrain. In many places, the path is too narrow for two-way traffic, forcing people to stop and wait for one another. Clouds can engulf the mountainside within minutes, causing visibility to change rapidly. On humid days, many hikers slow down and rely heavily on the chains while crossing the steepest sections. The peak has also been closed several times over the years for conservation work and trail restoration before reopening to visitors. At the summit, sweeping views of Huangshan's famous granite peaks and seas of clouds stretch in every direction. It is a reward earned after a climb that offers almost no chance to truly relax. Hundreds of colorful tents stand side by side on a glacier that is constantly moving. This is Everest Base Camp, sitting at an elevation of about 5,364 meters beneath Nepal's Mount Everest. The ground beneath the camp is not solid earth, but the Khumbu Glacier. The ice is continuously shifting, cracking and changing shape. As a result, the exact location of base camp is adjusted almost every climbing season. The longer you stay, the more the altitude takes its toll. Oxygen levels are only about half of what they are at sea level. Even slow walking can leave people with headaches, difficulty sleeping, or symptoms of altitude sickness. Every climbing season, hundreds of mountaineers gather here to prepare for their ascent of Everest. Doctors, rescue teams, and helicopters remain on standby throughout the season because a sudden medical emergency can require immediate evacuation from base camp. Towering ridges of earth stretch all the way to the horizon, separated by broad corridors that resemble giant streets. Iran's Lut Desert is home to one of the world's largest and most complete fields of caloutes, landforms carved from rock and sediment by thousands of years of relentless wind erosion. The desert has also recorded some of the highest land surface temperatures ever measured on Earth. Ground temperatures have reached about 70.7 degrees Celsius, while satellite observations have detected values as high as around 80.8 degrees at certain times. During the day, the extreme heat makes travel exceptionally demanding. Water sources are almost non-existent. Getting lost among the endless kaluts, some extending for dozens of kilometers, can make navigation extremely difficult. From June through October, powerful winds continue to sweep across the desert. Sand constantly sculpts the landscape, meaning the terrain is still slowly changing today. Whitewater rafting on the Zambezi River is widely regarded by adventure experts as one of the most challenging commercial day trips in the world. The journey begins just below Victoria Falls, where the enormous volume of water plunging over the edge creates powerful currents and deep whirlpools at the entrance to Batoka Gorge. As the raft moves deeper into the canyon, sheer cliffs rise on both sides. There is almost no way back. Once the descent begins, the only real option is to keep going. Powerful hydraulic holes can trap both people and equipment beneath the churning water before releasing them downstream. On many rapids, flipping an inflatable raft is an expected risk that every crew prepares for before launching. After clearing each major rapid, teams must carry their rafts around sections of the river that cannot be safely navigated before returning to the water and continuing the expedition. The ocean lies on one side. A coastal lagoon stretches along the other. Between them is a narrow strip of land, only a few hundred meters wide. That is where Kivalina stands, off the coast of Alaska, United States. The village extends for only about 9 kilometers. When powerful storms arrive, waves and storm surge can push in from both sides at the same time. In the past, sea ice formed each winter and helped absorb the force of the waves. In recent years, however, the ice has formed later and melted earlier, leaving the coastline far more exposed to autumn storms. Coastal erosion has continued for decades. More of the shoreline disappears after every storm season. Life in Kivalina is closely tied to watching the weather and the tides. A single major storm can reshape the coastline and further reduce the narrow strip of land the community calls home. Houses climb the steep mountainside in layers. Far below, a narrow valley marks the meeting point of two rivers. Iruya sits at an elevation of about 2,780 meters in the Andes of Argentina. level ground is extremely limited. Homes, streets, and the village square have all been built to fit the rugged terrain. Beyond the center of the village, many paths quickly turn into steep uphill and downhill walkways. The only road into Iruya crosses high mountain passes and long stretches of unpaved road. During the rainy season, landslides and flash floods can cut off access for days, leaving the village temporarily isolated from the outside world. Its dramatic setting between towering mountains and a narrow valley is what makes Iruya so distinctive. It also means that daily life here remains closely tied to the challenges of the landscape and the weather. Just a few steps away from the boat, the rainforest swallows every trace behind you. Thick tree canopies block out the sunlight, and the trail quickly disappears. Madidi National Park in Bolivia covers nearly 19,000 square kilometers, stretching from the Amazon rainforest to the Andes. Thousands of animal species live within this vast wilderness. Jaguars, caimans, venomous snakes, and disease-carrying insects are all part of the natural environment. Most avoid people, but staying aware of your surroundings is essential while moving through the forest. Many parts of the park can only be reached by boat, followed by long hikes. There are no signposts, and mobile phone service is unavailable across much of the area. If you lose your way, navigating beneath the dense forest canopy becomes extremely difficult. For that reason, most expeditions are led by local guides. They do far more than show the way, identifying animal tracks, flooded areas, and hidden hazards that are easy to miss in the rainforest. In many places, the cliffs are too steep for an ordinary trail. Instead, steel cables and metal footholds are anchored directly into the rock, creating the famous Via Ferrata routes of Italy's Dolomites. For most of the climb, you stay pressed against the cliff face. Just a few steps to the side is a sheer drop into the valley below. Some sections even pass through tunnels carved into the mountains during the First World War. These routes originated during World War I, when Italian and Austro-Hungarian troops built paths across the mountains to move soldiers and supplies. They were later reinforced and have since become one of the Dolomites' most iconic climbing experiences. Mountain weather can change in minutes. After rain, both the rock and the steel cables become much more slippery. On higher routes, Patches of snow may remain even after summer begins. That is why every Via Ferrata in the Dolomites demands proper preparation, the right equipment, and solid mountain experience. Just a few minutes of exposed skin in the winter air can be enough to cause frostbite. Verkhoyansk, in Russia's Yakutia region, has recorded temperatures as low as about -67.8 degrees Celsius, the lowest ever measured in the Northern Hemisphere. Winter usually lasts from around October through April. The Yana River freezes solid, and the ground remains locked in permafrost. Vehicles and heavy equipment often have to be warmed before they can even be started. Summer tells a completely different story. Temperatures can climb above 30 degrees Celsius, creating a seasonal temperature difference of nearly 100 degrees. It is one of the largest annual temperature ranges ever recorded in a permanently inhabited place. Life in Verkhoyansk has always revolved around the cold and the remarkable ways people have learned to live with it. Dozens of brown bears line the lakeshore just a few meters apart. Many wade into the water, waiting for salmon to swim within reach. On Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, Kuril Lake hosts the highest concentration of brown bears during the annual salmon spawning season. Every year, millions of sockeye salmon return to the lake to lay their eggs. This enormous food supply attracts hundreds of bears to the shoreline and the streams flowing into the lake. At times, the distance between people and the bears can be as little as a few dozen meters. Every visitor group is accompanied by park rangers. Leaving the group, carrying food, or deliberately approaching the bears is strictly prohibited. Most encounters remain calm because the bears at Kuril Lake have become accustomed to the presence of people. Even so, they are wild animals that can weigh several hundred kilograms. One sudden movement or getting too close can quickly turn the situation into a dangerous one. Steam rises from every corner of the valley. The sound of boiling water and erupting geysers rarely stops. Step off the designated path, and you could be standing above boiling water or mud approaching 100 degrees Celsius. The Valley of Geysers on Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula contains more than 90 active geysers within a valley about 6 kilometers long. Each geyser follows its own eruption cycle. Some erupt every few minutes, while others may remain quiet for hours. Boiling water, mud, and clouds of steam can burst from the ground without warning. Visitors are required to stay on wooden boardwalks and designated viewing platforms at all times. There is no road into the valley, and most visits are made by helicopter. The landscape itself is constantly changing, with landslides and hot mudflows having reshaped entire sections of the valley within a short period. White steam rises constantly from the volcanic crater. Just a few meters below, molten lava continues to churn. When conditions are considered safe, Villarrica Volcano in southern Chile allows climbers to reach the rim of its active crater. Most of the ascent takes place across snow and ice-covered slopes, with the gradient becoming steeper as you climb higher. Near the summit, many climbers put on gas masks to reduce their exposure to sulfur gases and volcanic fumes rising from the crater. The volcano is monitored around the clock. If gas emissions increase, seismic activity changes, or the alert level is raised, the climbing route is immediately closed. The descent often looks very different from the climb. Instead of walking back, many visitors slide down the snow-covered volcanic ash on specially designed pads, turning the return into one final adrenaline-filled experience. Polar bear warning signs stand at the edge of the settlement. Beyond that point, you are not allowed to travel alone. Ålesund is located on Norway's Svalbard archipelago, less than 1,300 kilometers from the North Pole. Outside the settlement lies prime polar bear habitat. Bears can appear at any time, so people usually travel in groups and carry firearms as required under Svalbard regulations. The purpose is to deter a bear if necessary, not to hunt one. Winter lasts for months. During the polar night, the sun does not rise above the horizon. Temperatures often fall below -20 degrees Celsius, while strong winds and snow make outdoor travel even more demanding. Only a few dozen people live in Ålesund year-round. Most are scientists and research staff. Daily life here revolves around strict safety rules that very few communities anywhere else in the world need to follow. The river surges through the gorge at tremendous speed. Powerful waves crash against the canyon walls before rebounding into swirling currents, filling the valley with a constant roar. Tiger Leaping Gorge was carved by the Jinsha River as it cut between two towering mountain ranges in Yunnan, China. At its narrowest point, the cliffs are separated by little more than 20 meters. Forced through this tight passage, the river becomes even more violent. A large boulder in the middle of the river, known as Tiger Leaping Rock, is the gorge's most recognizable landmark. The trekking trail follows the mountainside high above the river. Throughout much of the hike, the sound of rushing water echoes up from the canyon below. During the rainy season, rising water levels and an increased risk of landslides can lead to temporary trail closures for safety. Glacial meltwater flows beneath an ice ceiling that is tens of meters thick. Drops of water fall continuously from above. The Mendenhall Ice Caves form beneath the Mendenhall Glacier in Alaska, United States. There is no permanent route into the caves. Their shape changes as the glacier continues to melt and move. Some passages exist for only a single season, before disappearing as the ice shifts. Reaching the entrance requires crossing slippery ice, deep crevasses, and streams of glacial meltwater. Even after entering the cave, sections of ice can crack or collapse with little or no warning. Every day, flowing water continues to carve through the glacier. The interior is constantly evolving as the ice melts, meaning a passage that exists today may no longer be there in the near future. A towering column of black ash rises from the summit. Within minutes, volcanic ash and hot gases can spread across the mountainside. Mount Sinabung on Indonesia's Sumatra Island returned to life in 2010 after remaining largely dormant for nearly 400 years. Since then, the volcano has repeatedly sent ash clouds thousands of meters into the sky and generated dangerous pyroclastic flows racing down its slopes. Viewing areas remain open whenever conditions are considered safe. However, the zone closest to the crater is strictly controlled and access is carefully restricted. Sinabung is monitored continuously by volcanologists. At the first signs of renewed activity, warning levels are raised and areas around the volcano can be closed immediately to protect visitors and nearby communities. The more dangerous the destination, the stronger the urge to conquer it. Yet that is exactly why these are journeys that very few people would ever choose to begin alone. Sometimes the most unforgettable part is not the place itself, but everything you overcome to get there. Which destination impressed you the most today? And if you could experience only one of them, which would you choose? Let us know your pick in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next adventure.